Oh, hello. There's just been a new Warcom article dropped about the new Critical Ops mission pack, so let's analyse what we've been told. For those of you that aren't subscribed to the channel, and you probably should be, yesterday I did a video based on the tiny preview that went up on the Sunday preview article that tells you what you'll be able to pre-order on Saturday, where they announced this deck with the following two snippets of information. I'm not going to go over these again. It's just that later in this video I'm going to refer to the fact that there's 44 cards. So that's where this information has come from. If you particularly want to travel back in time and hear my analysis of the initial drop of information, then you can go and look at yesterday's video, and that would really help me out as well, because watching videos is really useful. So now we know some stuff. So these images are all taken from the article, as is the text. I've not reproduced all the text, I've just reproduced the relevant text. I will link the Warcom article in the description below for people to go and read at their leisure. The Critical Ops, TAC Ops and Mission Card Pack is the perfect companion to the Kill Team experience, giving you instant access to a variety of maps, missions, including 3 new ones, and updated TAC Ops for all factions. It all makes for a balanced competitive game, especially as the reference leaflet included contains numerous methods for generating a mission. Each of the 3 new missions provides simple objectives compatible with all 9 map cards, which you can build up using whatever terrain you have at hand, be it Kill Team scenery, upturned mugs, discarded egg cartons, or the gaming table at your local Warhammer store. I feel as if my desire for fixed map layouts for classic Kill Team play, in the vein of Into the Dark, are being specifically called out here as something that's not happening. But what we are getting looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go through all the things that we've got in more detail. I just want to cover 2 things on this slide, really. The first is this matched play map card key. So the drop zones are pretty straightforward. They are blue and red, and then they've introduced this concept of territory. So you've got player A's territory and player B's territory. It's just the rest of your board half. But sometimes your board are, in line perpendicular to the drop zone. At least on the 2 examples we've been seeing. But we'll see later on when we look at the revised TAC Ops reference to territory rather than within red of your drop zone is a thing that happens. So territory is a thing. Otherwise, you've got objective markers. It tells us where the center line of the table is. Kill zone edges, pretty self-explanatory. We've just got this new concept of territory. And then over here, this is pretty interesting. So here you will find a variety of methods that you can use to determine mission and map. So, organised, I assume this means this is what we expect people to use for organised play, right? So specify beforehand which combination of mission and map will be used, e.g. loot and straight, A4, or secure and junction, B7, etc. If a series of games are being played, e.g. at a tournament, each round can be specified beforehand. Alternatively, each subsequent round can be determined by the organiser beforehand, but only revealed after the previous round has been completed. So, I expect this is how organised play will work. What I'm interested to know will be if either any of the big tournament scenes come up with a list of if any of these combinations turn out to be a bit kind of when you play mission like D on terrain layout 3, it just doesn't work. If like they sit down and come up with a list of potentially balanced scenarios, you hope that doesn't have to happen. You hope that every single combination will be seen as being competitive, and therefore it will just be the same as randomly shuffling them, which is this random thing. Shuffle the mission cards and map cards separately, deal 1 each to randomly determine the mission and map. I would love to imagine that the organised version can be done simply by the tournament organiser with a single pack of cards, using the random method, and then announcing on the PA, I've drawn mission B and map 7, right? It is important, I think, for a for a tournament to have everybody playing the same game. I think that's a good thing, right? If everybody's playing the same game every round, so that people, if for nothing else, that these people can talk in the pub afterwards about the game that they had and compare notes, and it makes that a bit more fun. So that would be good. But I live in hope that the organised method can basically boil down to the random method plus a microphone where you just say we're all doing this one, lads. That would be good. If it ends up needing to be a bit more curated than that, where the TO has to actually sit down and look through the cards and think, well, this one with this one makes good sense, and this one with this one makes good sense, and this one with this one isn't such a fun game or such a balanced game, then the product would be a bit flawed. So we'll have to think about that. And then we've got this veto system, which is interesting. So the players roll off to decide attacker and defender first. The attacker takes the mission cards. The defender takes the map cards. The attacker chooses 2 mission cards to put forward. The defender selects one of them to use. The defender chooses 3 map cards to put forward. The attacker selects one of them to be discarded. The defender selects one of the remaining cards to use. So the defender selects their drop zone after setting up the objective markers and kill zone as normal. So it hands a little extra advantage to the defender. I think it remains to be seen whether... I think this is a great product. It remains to be seen whether the community really picks up and runs with specifically this veto mode of play, right? It'll be interesting. I suspect it will be tournaments that lead the way. If tournaments are all doing what Games Workshop seems to suggest, and they're using the organised method, which could just be described as an adaptation of the random method, then I don't know how much play that the veto mode will get. It'll be a fun thing between friends, but personally, I don't know how many other people fall into this category. As someone that likes to attend events of Warhammer World, but otherwise finds precious little time to play when everybody's fit and well and wants to come and play, every game that I play ends up being vague prep for some sort of event that I've signed up for, and therefore whatever mode the events are playing ends up being the thing that we do. I don't think events should take up the veto mode only because it is going to add a little bit of time to the start of the game, and I think we should be really pushing for 90 minutes to be enough to play a game of Kill Team. I think we all need to try and get to that kind of point. In this article, I think they're talking about playing a game in an hour, which seems absurd, but I think 90 minutes is probably quite good if everybody reasonably knows what they're doing. So I be interesting. That said, I'm kind of excited to see what the veto mode plays like, but I feel like there's just more stuff to, like, do I know enough about my team to know which missions I want to do, or am I just going this one and this one, I guess, and then my opponent's going this one and this one, and then I go how about this one, and they go and that one, and then like, if it's done thoughtlessly, it almost just becomes a waste of time. And it becomes almost like another thing that you can get wrong. I don't know. I don't know what I think about veto. I love the rest of the product. I don't know what I think about veto. It needs to be played, obviously. So let's just look at the missions. They've shown us 2 maps and a mission card. Now, this is really interesting because previously, if you'd asked me, I would have said... I've used, in fact, when playing Kill Team, the term map and mission interchangeably. I've sort of said, oh, what map are we on? Because the main thing at the moment about the missions in the core book is that the map, where the objectives are, is the main sort of thing that changes, really, in my view. Well, some of them are more complex than others, I guess. Now, we've been shown loot. So mission A is loot, mission rule, operatives can perform the following mission action, loot, 1 AP, an operative can perform this action while it controls an objective marker that has not been looted during this turning point. If it does so, that objective marker has been looted during this turning point. Each objective marker can be looted a maximum of 3 times during the battle. This is exactly the same. Well, no, it's not. That's a lie. It's close to being the same as loot and salvage. Loot and salvage, however, you have to be within black of the objective marker that you controls. So that extra requirement to be more to the center of the marker has gone. So you can now loot a marker from, if you're using, as you probably should, sort of the common size of larger objectives that are circle in radius, then from anywhere on that circle now you may perform a loot action, whereas for a loot and salvage action you had to be within that inner ring. It will be really good and really convenient actually if they just got rid of that inner ring. I would love to see the inner ring go so that actually just a plain circle radius circle with nothing else on it is all that you really need. I mean, that was fine for the majority of missions anyway. If we can get rid of that inner ring, then that's quite a good thing, right? And then we've got two maps. Now, these maps don't exactly add up to any of the maps in the core book. The junction map here is pretty similar to the map layout in Loot and Salvage, except Loot and Salvage is long edges, and this is corners. And this battleground map here is not actually all that similar to anything. They've added this kind of offset in the middle where the two center objectives are slightly offset to each other. So the maps are all new. Now, we can work out some things about the decks. We know there are 44 cards in the deck. And we know, I'm going to talk about the TAC ops on the next slide. We know there are 24 TAC ops. And we know there are 9 maps. Right, so that leaves 11 cards. Now, we're getting at least one random extra card in. By what I mean is, we know that this match play map card key is a card, right? They also talk about potentially there being other things, other player aids and things like that. But we know that takes out one card. So we've got 10 cards left. Now, there are 9 missions in the core book. So, in the way that Loot and Salvage is translated into the Loot mission, there are 9 missions in the core book. But there are 3 new missions. So, does that mean, assuming that there's 2 cards that are used up for, like, random extra writing, I mean, this may be a card. It talks about it being a leaflet, but it may well be a card, so that might be your 2 extra cards, right? So does that mean there are 9 missions? So there are 9 maps and 9 missions. 3 of the missions are new. So does that mean that 3 of the existing missions don't make the cut? Looking through the book, the only one that I can see that will have a real problem with this is Awaken the Data Spirits. So Awaken the Data Spirits is the mission where you very particularly have the 2 principal objectives and then the firewalls attaching each objective. I don't think Awaken the Data Spirits works with this random map generator, because if you draw something, well, how do you know which objectives on the card are the firewalls and which are the actual terminally things? It doesn't really matter. I don't know which other 2 they're going to get rid of. Zimbad was wondering if it was going to be the one where you pick up the objectives. That's potential. And I know that a lot of people dislike the one where is it Master the Terminals that people are always complaining about, where you determine which ones are going to be switched off. I think that could work better and be more balanced with this map approach, though, maybe. But maybe they'd have to get rid of that one as well. But it looks to me like 3 of the existing missions are going to go and are going to be replaced, and the other 6 are going to be adapted, as Loot has been adapted from Loot and Salvage, which then leaves you with 9 maps and 9 missions, 24 TAC ops cards, and then 2 extra cards, which will probably just be the match play card key and this organised random veto card, I would imagine. So let's look at those new TAC ops. They have updated the TAC ops. So they say the TAC ops cards have been updated with wisdom from more than a year of action-packed games and represent the definitive competitive experience for dedicated players. So, are we now throwing all our existing tactical ops cards in the bin? Is that what's happening here? Like, this is it now, this replaces them. Doesn't matter if you're playing with this pack, if you're playing Into the Dark, you're still going to use these TAC ops. Is that what's happening? I mean, yes, people are going to be upset that they've paid out for the old set of cards and now the cards have been changed and stuff, but honestly, like, I think this is a good thing. So it looks like there are fresh tac ops to test your abilities, and old favourites have been tweaked. I'll read the thing. I'll read the blurb. There are fresh tac ops to test your abilities in more ways than ever, while old favourites like Vantage, now called Secure Vantage, and Hold Them Back return with some balanced tweaks. Secure Vantage no longer requires an action to complete, while Hold Them Back lets your opponent's operatives get closer than before. Forget camping on your home side. Fast and Loose is now the name of the game. So, right. Secure Vantage is the evolution of Vantage. They've made this much easier for APL2 teams. You know, it's funny because Vantage was really punishing because you had to spend 2 AP. And a lot of people argued that it should go down to 1 AP. They've put it down to 0 AP, right? So it's gone from 2 AP to 0 AP, which is a massive change. And security, at the end, so I'm not reading stuff, I should read stuff. So the new Vantage card. You can reveal this tac op in the target reveal step of any turning point after the first. At the end of any turning point, if you control a vantage point that is more than blue from your drop zone, you score 1 VP. If you achieve the first condition with a different vantage point at the end of any subsequent turning point, you score 1 VP. Friendly operatives control a vantage point if the total APL of friendly operatives on it is greater than that of enemy operatives. What's interesting here is there are a couple of changes. First of all, if you look at the old vantage card, yes, they've got rid of the AP, but there's a sneaky change here as well. An operative can perform his action while on a vantage point that is not within your drop zone and has not been secured by friendly operatives. An operative cannot perform his action while within circle of enemy operatives. I think previously, if you think of a Minotaurum container for a second, rather than make hand gestures, I will draw the Minotaurum container. If you think of a Minotaurum container for a second, that's a very rough and ready thing. And if you're up here on the vantage point, previously you could be denied the vantage by the green triangle fellow down here, right? Assuming that, you know, this distance here, no, not even that distance there, but this distance base to base, but on the horizontal, to be clear, is circle, right? Now, under the new or soon to be new, the soon to be released way of doing things, the way I read it is that the you'd actually have to be up here, right? Yeah, to contest that vantage point. You know, and if you're a 3 APL team, you know, it'd be funny with Harlequins if you've got recon, because your Harlequins, this is now a gimme for Harlequins, because you can just fly onto a vantage point. It doesn't even matter if there's only one APL 2 guy on there, you just fly on and go, yep, vantage, yep, bye, and you're like, what? Well, because you're APL 3, of course, and you have fly. So Harlequins just got a little bit of a buff, I would think. But so did all the APL 2 teams as well, really. Yeah, and the recon deck as a whole, really good. And now, security tac op, let's look at this. You can reveal this tac op in the first target reveal step of any turning point after the first. At the end of any turning point, if there are no enemy operatives wholly within your territory, you score 1 VP. So it used to be no enemy operatives within red of your drop zone, you score 1 VP. So this, I think... Now hang on. Just... hold on. Hold them back lets your opponent's operatives get closer than before. No, I don't think so. Because it looks to me like the territory, at least in both the cases that we've seen, unless there's some other maps that come out with no man's land, the territory is always in your board half. So this effectively seems to mean that you... because on some missions... those with really shallow deployment zones, within red of your deployment zone meant they had to get quite back, right? Whereas now, this seems to effectively say no enemy operatives in your table half on any map type. That makes this much worse. So I think security's gotten a well-deserved nerf here. I don't know why they're describing it as a positive, but it seems like, to me, hold them back has been nerfed, because now it's keeping them out of your entire board half, which is more challenging. And then we've got two entirely new ones. Seek and Destroy, eliminate guards. You can reveal this tack up in the target reveal step of any turning point. Once you do so, at the end of each target reveal step, select an objective marker on the centre line or within your opponent's territory. Then, select one enemy operative within circle of it to be the guard for that turning point. If the enemy operative you selected to be the guard for the turning point is incapacitated during the same turning point, you score 1 VP. If you achieve the first condition in any subsequent turning points, you score 1 VP. So once you've turned this on, you can nominate a guard at the end of each target reveal step. So you can reveal it in turn 1 and nominate a guard that you probably aren't going to be able to kill, and then nominate a guard next turn, and then nominate a guard next turn, and then nominate a guard in the final turn. And you only need to kill 2 of those guards. And so you would always reveal this in the first turning point, wouldn't you? Because, yes, you let your opponent know that you have it, but what's he going to do? Not put anyone within circle of objectives. He has to. So, yes, that's quite nice. Eliminating people within circle of objectives is what you generally want to be doing, and I guess you do it when you are in a position where you're confident that you can nominate, and then you'll get to kill that guy before he simply moves away, or you use it as a psychological thing. You go, oh, well, I'm nominating him as a guard, and then the other opponent's like, well, I can move him off the objective to stop you scoring your secondary, potentially giving up primary points, right? So that's quite a good tack-up there, isn't it? Because they're not going to want to move their kings out of harm's way. They're going to want to try and kill your threats or bring in other things to reinforce. So it has the effect of pulling everything in, which is pretty good. And then we've got the infiltration tack-up, stalk target. You can reveal this tack-up in the target reveal step of any turning point. Once you do so, at the end of each target reveal step, select one enemy operative to be stalked for that turning point. Okay. So it's the same mechanic as the Eliminate Guards one, where you're nominating an enemy model every turn, which I liked. At the end of any turning point, your friendly operative with a conceal order is within blue, but not within engagement range of an enemy operative you selected to be stalked for that turning point. You score 1 VP. If you achieve the first condition at the end of a subsequent turning point, you score 1 VP. That's quite good. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any particular... I'm sure there'll be some teams out there that can have an easier time scoring that than others. With certain models. But off the top of my head, I can't think of any that can. But that's quite interesting. Seems tricky to pull off. Would have to see that one in the round with all the others, of course. But that seems tricky to pull off to me. Right. Final thoughts. So, this is something Zimbad said to me, and it's good, so I'm stealing it. About half of the decent output on this channel is stuff Zimbad said to me and that I've repeated randomly. But this feels more like Season 2 than Into the Dark does. Like, I still have yet to play a single game of Into the Dark. I will, because you were playing it at Warhammer Fest at the tournament there. So I do need to get my stuff painted and get some practice. I'm probably saving my stuff. Probably going to paint my walls and stuff first thing in January when I'm on the new Hobby Bingo card. We always do Hobby Bingo on the Table of Impulse Discord, and then get some games in. But it also feels like a lot of people were banging the drum of saying that Into the Dark this was the way to play Kill Team now. This kind of cements the view that Into the Dark is like a sideshow, like a fun pastime, but the classic game is here to stay as the main way it's played, and this is an improvement. And I'm sure the Tac Ops cards will be used in Into the Dark as well, but the mission cards won't be. This does feel like the Games Workshop are kind of saying, no, like, Into the Dark's cool, and we're glad you're buying it and playing and having fun. But it is the classic mode that is the one that we're still working on and we still think of as the core game. So that's interesting. It seems like a mandatory purchase for all Kill Teamers. So if you play Kill Team at all, you need to buy this deck of cards. I am scared because Games Workshop are not good at keeping decks of cards in stock, right? So I'm reasonably hopeful because I will be in Warhammer World on the day this comes out at the December Warhammer World Kill Team event. Usually they have lots of stock of everything at Warhammer World, right? So I'm hoping I don't need to pre-order, I don't need to panic, I don't need to do anything. I can just go and pick up a couple of decks of this. I mean, hey, maybe they give everybody at the tournament a free deck. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? But maybe I just go pick up a couple of decks of this, one for me, one for Mrs. TI, and that will be all sorted out and done. But Games Workshop kind of sucks at keeping papery things in stock constantly, printing enough of them, not going, oh, well, we're waiting for a second printing. Incidentally, I've heard people, like, if you look on the web store, a lot of the kill teams are out of stock. They've still got a box of Star Striders in my local Games Workshop. They've still got a box of Gallowpox in my local Games Workshop. They've still got Chaos Legions in my local Games Workshop. If anybody in the UK is desperate for those things and wants me to post them, then please DM me. So they are around, but I know that they've been out of stock online for a while. But the paper things, I mean, you ask Aeronautica players about, I said this in the last video, I won't labour the point, but they do struggle. Next thing I wanted to say was, do you think the veto mode will be popular, right? Of those 3 ways to use this pack, I think random will be absurdly popular because it's easy to do. It's just a slight tweak on what we do now where we roll randomly. It's just this one, and it means that we have a lot more missions to potentially play from. Love it. I think that the fixed mode for tournaments where people go, well, we're going to play this one, and this one, and these are the numbers, is fine. I really, really, really hope that that's just done to give you a consistency of experience and it doesn't become the case that the community has decided that there are certain, there are certain combinations which are given the kind of wave of saying these are the ones that these are the ones that we should be playing for our competitive play, and these are the combinations, well, they're just slightly too unbalanced, we can't possibly, too much potential to skew the result and stop it being a true test of skill. Competitive players sound exactly like that, right? So that's my hope. And then you've got this veto mode, it's a wild card. I'm told by the person that tells me these things every single time that it's similar to a mechanic in Star Wars Legion that apparently they use a lot for all. It's their default way of doing things. I think it could end up adding a really cool extra tactical layer to the game. It's interesting that they flagged it up as not being for competitive play. They've said, oh, this is the what's the word they use? Let me not organised play, right? This is the organised way, right? And then the veto mode is an extra little thing that you can choose to do. It's the bottom of the list, Maybe the independent tournament scene, the London guys and people overseas go, yeah, well, we really like veto, so all our games veto, and then it becomes the thing that everybody wants to play. I just worry about the time overhead. What does it add? Does it add 15 minutes to every game? Maybe it gets quite quick. It depends how much, I know with my team I always want to pick this and this or this or this, or whether it gets, whether there's a lot of pondering. Well, I wasn't playing this, but I'm playing against this other guy. Especially, it's always Harlequins, isn't it? But that's always the go-to example. He's playing Harlequins, so we definitely want to play this or this and this or this, and then I'm playing this. So, it depends how long that takes. Give me your thoughts. I think ultimately, whatever the LGT people, well, not necessarily the LGT, but the London scene, and the internet, the Spanish scene and the big Polish scene, whatever those guys, and the Americans, of course, whatever those guys decide to do, just alienating most of my audience there casually, right? Oh yes, and the Americans, but I love you all as well. But whatever those guys all decide to do, that's what people want to do in their own garages and hobby rooms, right? Good. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Please leave me a comment answering some of the questions I have here. Tell me what you think of the veto mode. Are you itching to play it? Is it all you want to play? Do you agree with me that it looks cool, but ultimately you want to play what everyone else is playing, or are you pretty sure? Oh, this is what I've talked to a guy, who've talked to a guy, who've talked to a guy, and we're definitely always going to do veto for all of our tournaments. So let me know your thoughts there. If you feel like financially supporting my life, then consider pressing the join button and sending me some money. That's a thing you can do now. Excellent. Good. Well, on that note of begging, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great day. Cheerio.